I'm just going to do a quick run through. And what I want to tell you about is basically why blade is the way it is, what the difference is between the models, how those differences affect the prices, and why there is on none of this stuff, because it's cheaper, does not mean there is any quality change whatsoever. With blade, you pay for what you want. Okay, for example, if you want gold, you pay more because it's gold. If you want ebony, you pay more because it's ebony. Is ebony better than a maple fingerboard? Of course not. It all depends on what it is that you want. The two things the first and most important thing is that when I started putting the concept for the blade together, it was people like you that determined that this came out like this. With the repair shop, the custom shop that I have in Basel, Switzerland, I trained over the course of the first 5 years, I trained 5 other guys to do guitar repair. I had apprentices that actually did even 3 or 4 year studies. And they then stayed to work on with me. So we had people coming for repairs and custom built stuff from Sweden down to southern Italy to Croatia into Greece. And if people would come to us, they'd say, I wish my guitar would play like this, I wish it would sound like this, I wish it would not do this, and they spent all of their time coming to me with their problems, or what it is that they really wanted. So what we were doing was listening to what people like you were telling us that you wanted your guitar to do. Okay? And at the same time, you do the repair for these people, or you build them a custom instrument, you put it in their hands, and then they would go, ugh, or they would go, yes, finally, after 20 years. And that's the input that told me if I'm going to make a guitar and do it in a commercial base where we can do the manufacturing, then this was the first one that came out. Okay? There was always a desire, if for any of you people that can remember into the 80s, if you were going to buy a Strat-shaped instrument, there were a couple things people wanted. One, they said, okay, 3 single coils is nice, but if I want to play a solo, I need more fatness, I need more mid-range. So everybody started sticking a humbucker in the back. So you went from 3 single coils to HSS. Right? The other thing was you had to have a trem. Okay? And remember back that in 1977, Mark Knopfler played Sultans of Swing, and everybody went away from their ES335s. Slash was not out yet, so they were not going back to their Les Pauls, and Strat was king. And when it came to tremolos, Floyd Rose was out, so people wanted a tremolo that would stay in tune, and they wanted to be able to up trim and down trim. But with having a locking nut and cutting the ball end off the strings on the back, I mean, it's great when Eddie Van Halen gets on stage or Jennifer Batten is going nuts on this stuff, but real guitar players do not have 5 guitars on stage, and they do not have a roadie. Okay? They actually tune their own guitars, or they have to change their own strings. And you broke a string on a floating tremolo, that was it. You know, that's the reason why bass players have to know so many jokes. Because first you had to go find your Allen wrench to change the string. You didn't have it in your pocket, so either you had to grab your reserve guitar and cut the set short so you could change strings again, or the bass player saying, did I ever tell you the one about, and you go off and do your thing. So that was pretty much the standard of what the industry was then. Getting that input, there were 2 things that became integral in making the blade, at that time was the R4, that changed everything else. The first is the Falcon Tremolo, and I don't even need to plug it into this, but I guess I could put it in there. I'm going to show the electronics. There's got to be someplace to plug this into it. If you want to have a really good sound out of your guitar, and you want to hear how your guitar sounds different than another guitar, you have to hear the wood. If you don't hear the wood, you don't hear your guitar, which is why I've told everybody, if you're going to buy an electric guitar, do not, under any circumstances, plug it in. Listen, play it and listen to it without it being plugged in, and listen to whether or not you hear the wood resonate or not. If it sounds like boom, 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 then the body and the neck don't like each other. All right? If you get a nice piano-y sound out of it, you've got attack and sustain without it being plugged in, then you have a guitar where the pieces of wood on it and the hardware is in harmony. The vibration goes into the neck at the nut, and it goes into the body at the bridge. If I have a relatively heavy floating tremolo like a Floyd Rose that's on 2 posts, I'm not really getting all that vibration into the body. So I'm not really hearing the way the wood sounds. Some of you, I've got a video up on YouTube. It's called Tech Talk Part 1, Wood Frequencies. If you haven't seen it, it takes 10 minutes, but you will, for the first time in your life, actually understand that different types of wood give you completely different sounds, and that's the reason why a mahogany body guitar is going to sound different than an alder, is going to sound different than an ash. It's just not because you want clear finishes or black finishes on it. It makes a huge difference. I have a xylophone, and I've got all different types of wood. They're all the same size blocks, and you hear how each of them have a different tone. Now, so I've got this tremolo sitting flat on top, which means that if I break a string, I'm still in tune. Okay? Or you ever want to do a deep bend against an open string? You do this with a floating tremolo, and every time you're doing this is going because you're putting more tension and it's pulling the tremolo forward. So I don't have that problem here. Wonderful. What makes this difference from a normal synchronized trem that's sitting on the flat of a cheap Strat? Nothing. Except I can't do this if I have a synchronized trem sitting flat on the top. So what I've done is to build a tremolo into the tremolo. So what you're basically seeing is that if I down trem, if you take a look inside here, you'll see 2 blocks. There's the brass block in the back, and there's the strings go through this cast block in front. When I down trem, both of the blocks go to the back, like a normal trem would, and when I up trem, you see they split? So I'm just pulling the strings inside the guitar over the rollers in the saddle, and that's how I can have a trem that's sitting flat on the top of the guitar and still do the up trem. The other thing that was a difference was when I decided to have a guitar that would basically give you all the sounds you wanted, but only good ones, and do it with active electronics. All my pickups are always passive. There's no active pickups. If you have EMGs, for example, let's say you were back in the 80s and you had a Strat, you wanted the EMGs because they were the rage. Those wonderful middle position sounds that you have with single coils are gone. Because the only way you can get those is if this coil, for example, sees this coil electronically. That means, you've heard about series and parallel electronics and so on and so forth. That's what happens. Let's say this one is the frequency peak There's 10,000 here. I know you're not all techno geeks, but this is the way I am. I'm sorry. My wife complains about it also all the time. This is 10,000, which is a pretty peaky sounding single coil, and this would be 10,000. When I put them together, they both drop to 5,000. So that's the reason why, one, I'm hearing different parts of the string, and I'm dropping the frequency. That's how those middle frequencies come together. If the coils never see each other, because they've got a preamp underneath it, that doesn't happen. So I take, I've got all my frequencies. It comes in for a solo or I want crunch. Instead of having to try and change anything or say I can only work on the humbucker, all I do is switch this in. I get this real fat sound. But I've got it in 5 positions. Going back to Sultans of Swing, the idea of the Super Strat that came out that time was having a guitar that had treble boost and bass boost, like putting your graphic equalizer in a Smile, like everybody does in their car. And that's what happens when I push this up. So I get a punch on the top end and I get a punch on the bottom end. Again, 5 positions. And add on top of that I can split the humbucker. So now I have 18 sounds without changing guitars or doing anything else. I don't have to reach for anything. With the mid-range boost, I can go from clean to crunch, or if I set it up, I'm doing power chords and crunch for that thing and I want to go to solo, then I just switch it on when I go to solo, and now my amp is working great. Think about an old Marshall. You haven't got a Kemper, and you haven't got all these foot switches necessarily, and you just want to drive the shit out of it. So that's the way you can do it. So the trem and the electronics change the opportunities that you'd have in the guitar. Because the tremolo with this double block is going to be pulling on the headstock, pulling on the machine heads, I had to have a really high quality locking machine head. And at that time, Spurzl was the only way to go. A machine head that if you want to buy it on the internet, the Thomann, at a lower price, you're still going to spend 150, 140 euros for a set of machine heads. Okay, so it adds a cost to the guitar. The nut is a PPS plastic with graphite and nylon in it, so it's self-lubricating. This little string tree that you see on all of my guitars is, if you take a look at it, you can see it's asymmetric. This pushes down more on the E string than it does on the B, okay, because there's more tension on the B than there is the E. It's spring-loaded. It's adjustable from the rear, so that no matter what string gauge I'm using, I can use this to get just the right pressure on the nut, so I'm getting a good clean attack and sustain, but my strings don't bind in the nut, so I don't have detuning because of that. So all of this had to be redesigned because of this. Having the access to these kind of sound differences means I now have a heck of a lot of possibilities that I can do working with pickups. Okay, things that you would normally, like these are vertical hum canisters. Okay, I've got a tube amp. Put everything up to full. You hear the noise? There is none. Okay, now I'm going to put mid-range boost on. This on any other thing would be going nuts. You don't get any noise out of things, so they're perfectly quiet. So if you're playing on stage, you're going in the studio, you're not going to have any problems playing. It's got an ebony fingerboard on it. Now, and the mirror pickguard is my material. I actually, at the plastics manufacturer, have to have them make me sheets of this stuff that I can then cut into pickguards, because you cannot buy this anywhere. So it's custom made for blade. So, and this guitar costs 27,000 krona. So, I don't have that kind of money. And also, I hate gold. And your teeth are crooked, and your mother dresses you funny. And I don't like the mirror pick guard. That's just not my gig. I prefer to play on a maple neck, and I don't, or a rosewood fingerboard to the ebony. So, this is all very nice, but why should I do this? Well, don't. It's a pretty simple answer. So I'm going to take, I don't use the double, how many of you people really use a double block tremolo all the time? Raise your hands, because there's going to be about one person, all right? It's a great, great tremolo, even if you don't do anything but down trim with it. But you're paying to have this. Now, if I go from the RH4 to the RH2, where are the differences? This is 13,000. Slight difference in price. It has the same body. Okay? It has the same neck. Swamp ash body, Canadian hard rock maple neck. This is just not the neck in the same color as the body. It has a rosewood fingerboard. It has the same adjustable tension guide, the same nut. I have a locking machine head, but it's not as 100% rock solid as the Spurzels, because I don't have a double block tremolo. I'm not pulling on these as much as I am on those. The tremolo, as you see, looks very, very similar. It's the FT4. We started doing this in 1993. It's a very, very well-made, solid tremolo that works great with. It doesn't have the roller saddles because I don't need them, because I'm not pulling inside the guitar on this. I've got a black pickguard. The same humbuckers I've got there, the same electronics as I've got there, the same split that I've got there. But instead of having hum cancelers, I've got single coils. Which are still very quiet. You hear it more than when I've got the mid-range boost up. Single coils have a different attack. When people talk about, they first started doing this when they were talking about Fenders. They said the guitar with twang, or it has a twangy sound. Where did that come from? You call it the envelope development of a sound. It's when I hit a string, what happens with the sound? If I have the stacks, I might have exactly the same tone, but it comes out ah. If I have a single coil, it comes out mwah, mwah. Some people call it quack. It doesn't come out exactly linearly in the beginning, and that's what twang is. Okay, that you get out of single coils, you don't get it out purely out of stacks. So there's that difference. Is this lesser quality than that? No. It does not have. The single coils are cheaper than stacks. The pickguard is cheaper than the mirror. The gold parts cost more than this. But if this fits you, this is the best guitar for you, and that's wrong. And I'm saying this for the simple. Of course, I love selling the more expensive guitars. But I do tools for musicians. And if you don't have the right tool and you're spending money that you don't need to, it's wrong. Now let me go from this to the Texas.